everyone, today we're going to do another little organizational video. I need to go through and organize and clean up my garden closet. So since I garden on a rooftop deck, all of our gardening supplies are up here. They're not down in the garage because that would be way too inconvenient to go up and down and carry them. So basically a closet up here has all of my gardening supplies. And to make this video at least a little helpful and not just you watching me clean, I'm going to take everything out and go through what I have, and I'll tell you what I think you definitely should use, and I'll tell you some of the stuff I have that I probably don't need. I also have some questions for you because I think some of what I have is kind of over complicating gardening anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you what the closet looks like now. It's not terrible, I just haven't gone through or like cleaned up any of the shelves in there since maybe last winter. So it's long overdue. It gets a lot of use, especially during the gardening season. So I'll take you over, I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll move things out kind of by category because that's how I like to organize anyway. Go through everything I have, again, kind of talk about what I use the most often, what I don't think is necessary. And then by the end of this, I will have a hopefully clean and well-organized garden closet. So let me take you over and show you how it looks right now. So this here is the closet. It's not too deep, but it is a pretty good width. I did just pick up this brass doorstop at an estate sale, which estate sales are a great way to find gardening supplies for cheap. I'm actually subscribed to an automatic notification system that goes out anytime there's an estate sale near me. I'll link that down below in case you are interested. But I got this there because our cat, specifically Penelope, puts her paw underneath the door and likes to pull it open because she thinks her toy mouse is in there, even though it's not. So almost every morning when I come up, this door is open. I also need to clean this door, so I'll do that today as well. But let's move this first. And here is a look at everything that's in there. So again, it's not terrible, but it's definitely become less and less organized over the last garden season. So I'm going to go through and again clean everything out. There's probably some stuff that either I'm not going to use, so I'll get rid of, or things that just don't belong up here anyways. So I'll go through that. But here's where I think I'm probably being way too complicated with all of the different fertilizers that I have in there. So we'll go through that, but let's go ahead and start cleaning this out. And again, I'm going to go through by category. So here are all of my fertilizers, and like I said, I think this is the area where I have more than I actually need because I kind of got into the habit of, if I had a rose plant, I had to go get a rose fertilizer. If I had a lemon plant, I had to get a citrus fertilizer. And when you only have like one or two plants of each, well, I mean, I guess in a good way, it takes a while to get through the bag, so I don't refill quite as often on some of these. But at the same time, it's like, do I really have to buy a whole separate bag for one plant? So let me go through what I have first here as far as fertilizers. I'll start with the Espoma products because I just have heard that brand recommended a lot, so I kind of started with that and then kind of added in the different items that I like. So first I have kind of what I would say are the more generic, less plant-specific ones. That is Plant Tone here that I am running low on, and then I have Biotone Starter. So I do use this a lot. I've definitely refilled the Biotone Starter plant food at least a few times, but again, a bag will last me through the whole season, which is nice, but I basically add this in anytime I plant anything into a container, for the most part. Again, if I had like a specific citrus fertilizer, usually I'll use that, but for the most part, anytime I'm planting something new, Biotone goes in the bed. And I don't even necessarily put it, like let's say I'm filling up one pot, I'll put it in the pot, but if I'm gonna fill and plant a lot of seedlings in one of my large elevated beds, I don't have to put it into the individual holes. I'll just kind of sprinkle it throughout and scratch it in. And that works just as well, just makes it a little bit more efficient. So these two I'm definitely keeping. The Plant Tone I use kind of as a general granular fertilizer when I don't have anything more specific on hand. I think I tried one year too that instead of doing like a weekly or bi-weekly liquid fertilizer application. I just sprinkle the granular fertilizer into the bed maybe like once a month. I might try that again this year. But I do like having both granular and liquid fertilizers because the granular fertilizers, they'll last in the soil, but it takes longer for the plant to absorb them, whereas the liquid fertilizer kind of gives that plant the quick release of nutrients that it might need. So if I can tell that a plant needs more nitrogen, it makes a lot more sense to give it a liquid fertilizer than just wait for a granular fertilizer to work its way into the plant. But I like having the combination of both. The only thing is if I can just use more of the granular, it does save me time because I'm doing fewer applications of that. So I hope that makes sense. But let me know as I'm going through this kind of what products you use, how many you use. Do you only use like one fertilizer on everything and make it simple? Definitely would like to know your recommendations here. So let's see the other Espumas that I have. I have, oh, another bag of the Biotone. So these two I will put together. The next Espuma product I have is the Hollytone, and I think I've had this, like I think we moved here and I had it, so I moved it with us. So that would be in 2020. So haven't used a lot of this yet, but this works for evergreens, which I have 2 hollies now, so I'll probably use it a little bit more often. Let's see what else it says. It works for azaleas, rhododendrons, camellias, and hydrangeas. So I do have hydrangeas. I don't have any azaleas or rhododendrons. So I am going to continue to use this. And now that I have the evergreens, and I'm hoping I can add more evergreens to my garden to have more winter interest so it doesn't look so sad right now. So this I'm going to keep and I'm going to use. I don't think, again, it's necessary for everyone. I would say it's worth getting some Biotone and Plant Tone, but not necessarily all of the other varieties unless you have a lot of the plant that the fertilizer was made for. Next, I have the soil acidifier. Now, you can use this to make your hydrangeas blue. I've given up on trying to force my hydrangeas to be something that they're not. Now, in a container, you can control them even more because I have total control of the soil and there's not as much that you need to amend. So it's probably easier for me to turn a hydrangea blue, one that can be turned blue, than for a lot of other people, but I'm just not interested. I love pinks and purples anyway, so if that's what it's going to naturally go to, I'm fine with that. But I was using this a lot for my blueberries, which now I don't have anymore because they kept getting blight, and I figured after 4 blueberries dying in my garden, that was enough. So maybe I'll hold on to it for this season and see how it does. But if you have plants that like acidic soil, this is great to have on hand. I just don't know if I necessarily am going to use it as much this year, but I mean, I'm going to keep it unless someone else really needs it and I can donate it to them. And then I guess the last Espuma is Bulb Tone. It's the only bag of Bulb Tone I've ever purchased. I've planted bulbs for 3 or 4 years now. So that's how long this has lasted, because again, I don't plant that many, so I don't go through this as quickly. But this is another one where instead of just putting it in every single hole that I dig, because my containers are relatively small, I just sprinkle it in and kind of mix it throughout the soil. So I definitely recommend this if you are planting bulbs. But I would say, because I've had some struggles with bulbs, I would say see if bulbs grow well in your container garden, if they come back in spring just fine before investing in that. But you are going to do some bulb planting and you know that it works for you. I like using the Bulb Tone. But I know that kind of when people don't have one, they really, again, just substitute like the Biotone and the Plant Tone. So that's kind of like a catch-all for something that's maybe not as tailored to the plant that you're applying it to. Now let's continue on with the rest of the granular fertilizers that I have. This one is, I think it's pronounced Job's Organics Fruit and Citrus Fertilizer. I got this for my lemon tree, which I no longer have because I gave it away, so I probably don't need this. I can't see myself, well, I guess it can be used for apple trees, and I do have 2 apple trees. You see how this happens? Because I'm like, well, I could use it for these 2 pots that I have, so might as well keep storing a whole bag that takes forever to go through. So maybe I'll save this for my apple tree. This one, the NPK is 355. Maybe I'll compare that to the other ones because I'm just interested to see what's similar and what's not. But I guess this can be for my apple trees. Maybe something I'll do too as far as organization is label specifically for my garden. Now obviously this says like fruit and citrus. This says like hydrangeas, and there's the hollies and azaleas, but maybe it would also be helpful if I write in a marker what I'm specifically using it for in my garden. So I will keep it over here for now. And then I have another, I don't know why I have two of these. I have another acidic fertilizer. So this is Dr. Earth's Acid Lovers for, again, azaleas, camellias, rhododendron, and maples fertilizer. I do have maple trees in the parkway. So maybe this is a downstairs fertilizer. Yeah, I think it makes sense since I already have the holly tone and soil acidifier up here. This can go downstairs and hopefully I'll remember to add it to the parkway. And then the last non-liquid is the Proven Winners Premium Continuous Release Plant Food for Flowering Plants. I just started using this last year because at the creators event, or was it the one before that? From one of the creators event, they sent us home with some. So I used that and then I got more. This I've used in my annual plantings. So when I plant my annual flowers, I'll just again add this to the soil. And I kind of do that maybe on like a monthly basis throughout the season. So what I want to do again this year is try more switching to things that I don't have to do as often in the garden and seeing if I still get the same kind of productivity from my annuals. That'll be interesting to see. All right, moving on to the liquid fertilizers, which I need to clean some of these up before I put them back into the closet. This first one was recommended by a lot of you, so I just got it last season. This is the Alaska Fish Fertilizer. It's 511, and it pretty much is great for like everything. Now it has more nitrogen, so it's probably going to benefit the green growth a little bit more, but I have used it on, I think, everything in the garden, and it seems to do great. So I'm probably going to continue to do that this year with it. I haven't yet tried it on houseplants, but it does say you can do that too. Maybe I will try that. That would be interesting because right now I'm using the Fox Farm fertilizer on my houseplants. So that one I'll clean up, definitely keeping there. This is an all-purpose plant food as well. Why I have two all-purpose plant foods up here, I don't know. It's 10 for 3, so again, heavier on the nitrogen. I'm wondering if I want to keep this one up here or maybe move this downstairs as well for the front pots. That might be good. So I'm going to move this on the floor with the other one. Then for some reason I have two liquid irons, one of which is very messy and I need to wipe off as well. This I also use gloves with. Any of the liquid ones I typically use gloves with, just so I don't get them all over my hands, even though I am holding this one now in my bare hand. But this one is, so basically if I have plants, and I think this was mostly happening with my blueberries again, where the leaves are turning yellow, the veins are staying green, is usually a good sign that you want to apply some iron. So I have two of these. Again, I don't know why I have two of these. I don't think I would need one downstairs, so I'll probably keep them both up here. It's not like one is almost empty, so I went ahead and got a backup. I have no idea. But for these, I'll keep them both up here for now. Then I have all of my Fox Farm, which this is the fertilizer I got started with. And because of that, I just continue to use it. What I like about it is that it clearly lays out when to use the different fertilizers, like what stage in a plant's growth to use them. And that was really great, especially starting off. So I have here, this is the Grow Big liquid plant food, and this one here says supports the lush vegetative growth. So you use this until you see your plants are starting to produce fruit or flowers. Then next I have two of the Big Bloom liquid plant food from Fox Farm. So these usually come in a trio, you can buy them separately. So I'm assuming I had one of the smaller ones left over from a different trio, and now I have the 3 larger ones. So I will work through this one and then move to this one. This one also has earthworm castings and bat guano, and it's formulated for indoor and outdoor potted plants, roses, vegetables, herbs, flowers, fruit trees, berries, basically everything. And this one is 0, 0.5, and 0.7. So no nitrogen at all in this one. You wouldn't want to use this if you're focusing on the vegetative growth. Then I have the Tiger Bloom for buds and blooms fertilizer. This one is 284, so not as gentle as this one here. This is what I use in my garden once the plants have started to flower. So if I have my tomato plant and it has just leaves, this is what I use. As soon as it starts to get its buds, I switch over to this. So that's why I like it. They have a few more different ones as well, and they have a really nice chart on their website that lays out when to use them, when to switch. So that's why I like Fox Farm. So these are all of the like fertilizers, plant foods, nutrients of some sort that I have. I'm gonna wipe these down really quickly, move them to the side. We're not gonna put anything back in the closet until I also wipe down all of those shelves. Next category is everything that I would say is used to either treat pests, disease, just trying to protect my plants from something. So I have neem oil. Well, first, let me show you something. So these 3 bottles are different. They have different things in them, but they all look the same. And I store them, let's get these out of the way. I store them like this. So I'm only seeing this side, which doesn't tell me what it is. So I just added with a marker what these are so I can easily go in and grab them. So first off, I have neem oil. I have a ready-to-go spray, and then I have this concentrate. So the concentrate you have to mix with water. So this says mix 1.5 teaspoons of neem oil per quart of water. Now with this, usually when you're getting concentrates, you can get more applications cheaper than if you're doing a pre-mixed spray. But then also you want to think about efficiency and ease. So if you want something that's ready to go, you can get a spray. If you want something that'll last you a bit longer for your money, you can get a concentrate. And that is why I have these glass bottles, because I do have concentrates of BT, I have concentrates of neem oil. You can see this one I put on here, a little label for BT. There's still some liquid in here, which if you're doing a concentrate, you don't want to make it and then leave it. In this case, it's been months. Or even really, I think they don't recommend like more than a day. So I need to empty this out, probably give it a run through the dishwasher. But these I like to have on hand just so I can easily mix up anything that I have a concentrate of. And again, my garden isn't huge, so I don't need like a giant sprayer for the most part. So the BT right here, this is the Thuricide or the Bacillus thuringiensis. I'm pretty sure I have a video on this as well, but this is for the budworms on my petunias. Now, something I am trying to get away from, and I think I've been doing a good job over the last few years, is getting away from me doing a lot of the pest control and trying to create an ecosystem where it brings in the beneficial insects so that they handle the pests. For example, with the hornworms, I used to have a much worse case of them, but now as I've been seeing more and more wasps in my garden, which, you know, I'm not like excited to see a wasp, but I understand how they benefit my garden. I've had fewer hornworms, so I don't do anything to control the hornworms. Mother Nature basically does that for me. I haven't had that success yet with the budworms, even though I think wasps do eat those as well. So that's the only thing I use the BT for, is specifically my petunias, because for the most part, they're really the only plants that I grow that attract the budworms. And something that can be an issue in a smaller garden too, though, is why I don't want to just let everything be up to Mother Nature, is I only have a few plants. So if I lose one, that might be the only plant that I have, and then I have to wait till next year to grow it again. So I do still keep an eye on everything, but I have found that I need to intervene a lot less than I had to in the past. So that's the BT. I also have Dead Bug Brew, which I know just was recommended for treating a wide variety of pests. I feel like similarly, I don't use this as much anymore, but it says it can kill thrips, spider mites, leaf-feeding beetles, sawfly larvae, and then just other insects. And it's for control of foliage-feeding worms. So when I was doing the treatment for the budworms this year, I was going back and forth with these, just trying to, do 2 different methods, and hopefully the combination was a little bit more successful. I also use this on houseplants when I have issues like spider mites, for example, and that's worked really well. So I have the Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew, and then I also have a copper fungicide from Captain Jack's. And Captain Jack's is organic. I think all of this is organic. This I got specifically for powdery mildew, because I get powdery mildew almost every year. This last garden season, 2023, was the worst. I don't think I was on the lookout for it as early into the season as I should have been. So I'm going to try to be better about that this year, but this is what I use to try to control the powdery mildew before it takes out specifically my zinnias. I also have this spray, which is wilt proof. I just got this at the recommendation of someone from Proven Winners to try to protect my holly plants. So I sprayed that on them. They're sitting out there. We made it through the -degree temperatures. I'm hoping they come back in the spring, but this is an anti-transpirant, so it's helping maintain the moisture in the leaves of the plant so that it doesn't dry out and then die. So I'm gonna keep this on hand and definitely use it every single year. And as I add more plants to my garden that hopefully give winter interest, I will plan to spray those as well to give them some extra protection. The last thing I have is this Garden Safe slug and snail bait. I don't know why I got a whole bag. I had one pot in my garden that was just getting ravaged by slugs. And as a container gardener, you're like, how did these slugs get here? I'm pretty sure I just brought them in from something that I planted into the garden. Now I should have probably just tossed the plant, but it was a perennial. I think it was one of my hydrangeas. Yes. And I wanted to try to save it, so I did sprinkle some of this on the top, but then it got cold and I moved the hydrangea into the garage. So I don't know if it actually did anything, but I probably don't need a whole bag of this, and it'll probably just sit in my closet for years. I don't usually have a problem with slugs. It was just that one pot. So that's everything as far as like treating pests or diseases. I don't know if I have any more categories left or if it's all just random. So I'm gonna move this off to the side and we'll bring out the next batch. So this batch is everything that I use for my garden irrigation. So I started with the Proven Winners WaterWise drip irrigation system, which does fine. It's worked really well. It's watered my front deck garden now for, well, since 2021 is when I think I set it up. I will say, if you have a container garden and you have the ability to set up an irrigation system, do it. That is the best decision I've ever made in my garden. I don't have to worry about watering. I can go away for a weekend, still be a little stressed, but my garden can be watered when I'm gone. Typically I set it so that my garden is watered before I even wake up in the morning, which is great. And also it's just a better way to water your garden. Instead of pouring water on all at once, like out of a watering can, it slowly seeps into the soil. So I love my irrigation systems. Now, what I will say is I started with this one because I saw it on Garden Answer. And like I said, it works great, but I don't think it's the best option for my garden. Because it's a smaller drip emitter, I really have to focus the emitter at the plant, whereas the other Carpathian drip irrigation system emits water from little sprayers, so it can cover more area. This is better if there's like one plant in a pot, not very great if there's multiple plants in a pot. It also, I think, is only supposed to be used for up to 10 pots at a time. You get a little bit more out of the Carpathian. I have a whole video on this too. I'll link it down below. In this box is kind of everything else that I need related to my hose faucets or irrigation. I have automated timers, which I know in this box there are timers I am not going to use anymore. So I'm going to move these to the side because I've now swapped over to the ones that I can control from my phone, but there might still be either a use for these downstairs or I'll give them away to someone that wants them. So these two I'm going to take out of the storage box. Now I'm not going to go through everything that I have in here, but there is some other stuff that I'm going to clean out. Like for example, I don't use these splitters anymore, which is just two, because I have upgraded to ones like this. So I'm also going to put this to the side. So that is that box with kind of the miscellaneous pieces. I have my two Carpathian kits, which again I should probably consolidate somehow and reorganize, but not today. And then because I got so comfortable with my irrigation systems, I then just started ordering, instead of kits, just the pieces that I need, because I understand how the individual components work together. I can just get what I need and then customize these kits for what works best in my garden. That is all of my irrigation. And again, I'll link down a video talking about the difference between these and showing you how to set it up. Definitely recommend doing that if you haven't yet in your garden. Now, this is a little bit of a mismatch, but it's basically the stuff I used most often, and it was all on one shelf, although I think I'm gonna organize a little bit of this differently when I put things back. And there is some stuff in here I actually don't think I need. But it's basically like the tools I reach for on a daily basis, almost daily basis during the garden season. I have my pitcher here. This I use for my houseplants, so I'm probably actually going to put all my houseplant stuff together because right now it's kind of mixed together on the shelves. I have my gloves, which I should probably run through the washing machine. I have these Atlas gloves that were my first gardening gloves that are really, falling apart. So I got new gloves, but then I have the problem of when I have something newer, I'm still reaching for the old pair because I don't want to ruin the new pair, even though the reason why I got the new pair is because the old pair is too far gone. So I'm going to bid farewell to these gloves. There's holes in them, there's like the material rubbing off. So we are saying goodbye, even though it pains me. Now I do have another set of gloves. These I don't use all the time, but when I do use them, I'm very grateful I have them. These were just from Amazon. They're called Hands On. I think they also sell like pet grooming gloves, so I don't know what's the main focus, but these are great when you're working with plants that are painful, like roses, anything that has thorns on it, raspberries, for example, because I've had some gloves that say they're made to be used with roses or plants like that, and I still get poked. These I've never gotten poked with. So if you are working with a lot of those types of plants, it's hands-on gloves from Amazon. So I maybe reach for them, I don't know, once a month, but again, when I need them, I'm very glad they're there. So I have 2 pairs of gloves now. I never wear a baseball cap. I wear them when I walk like around the neighborhood, but for gardening, I already have way too many of my sun hats, so this has just been sitting there. So I am going to also bid you farewell. I do have this winter hat, so obviously I'm not wearing sun hats in the winter. This has been nice to throw on when I go out there. I don't go out there very much. There's not really any maintenance I have to do right now, other than checking on my plants once in a while if they need water, but we get so much moisture, I'm basically not going outside. But when I do go outside, I'm glad I have that. Something else I don't really do a lot is wear sunglasses out there because I have my large hat on, so that even though I should, but most of the time when I'm out there is while I'm filming, and I like to be able to make eye contact and not have sunglasses on, so I don't need 2 pairs, that's for sure. So one of these cases can go somewhere else where I wear them more often. Other tools. So the tool I use the most, in the garden is my hands, because it's much easier in the container garden to use your hands. I really only have pruners, some scissors to cut plants, and then a trowel and a fork, and that's really it as far as what I use in the garden. But I do have a lot of pruners, well, 3 pruners. I think I have 1 more, maybe it's downstairs. These need to be cleaned and sharpened, so I'm going to leave them out so that I remember to do that. I also have this Fiskars. I have 2 of these diamond-coated blade sharpeners, so I'm going to leave all of these out somewhere so I remember to clean and sharpen those. But that's what I use the most often, is a pair of pruners. Now, because I'm starting to grow larger plants that have larger root systems, I got this blade on Amazon. It's a giant knife. I'm probably going to keep it, even though I think it's again a tool that I'm not going to use fairly often, but there are going to be situations where I need this and there really isn't anything else like it. And then I also got a Hori Hori knife, which needs to be cleaned. So I'll wipe all these tools down today as well. I really like this. I use it especially for planting bulbs. It's really nice, but it's really easy to dig holes. I probably use this more than my trowel. So I like my Hori Hori knife. Again, I'm pretty sure just from Amazon. And then I have some tools here which I don't think I use, so I don't think I need them. But these are knives, and they're really nice knives from the brand Opinel, but in my garden, a knife is not something I reach for very often. So these can probably be given away to one of my friends who I think will use these more often. So I'm going to put this in the giveaway pile. Oh, and then some other random things, which actually might be helpful. This is for my houseplants, so we'll go to my houseplant section. This is a moisture meter. I've killed more plants with too much water than too little water, so I always check to make sure they actually are dry before I add water to them. I love that. A paintbrush has come in handy a lot more than I thought, again, mostly with houseplants, but if I'm planting a propagation in soil, I make a little hole with this. If I am hand pollinating, I use the brush, although now I got rid of my lemon tree, so I don't think I have anything inside to do that with. But I use a paintbrush for gardening and houseplants a lot more than I expected. And then I have a bag clip, because if I have bags that don't have a resealable top, I use the clip. So this shelf can definitely be a bit reorganized, but this is what I would say is what I reach for the most, kind of when I'm opening and closing my closet. So at this point, there's not that much left in the closet, and most of it is very one-off, not really related to anything else. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and get everything organized in there, and then I'll show you what I haven't already shown you once I get in there. But let's go ahead and get the closet organized. I cannot wait to have everything just slightly more in order. I just put everything back in the closet, and I had to go around and look to see if I was missing anything because there's so much more space now. So I'm excited to show you what it looks like. Here is what it looks like now. And I swear I didn't get rid of that many things. I don't know if just reorganizing it gave me a lot more space. I don't know, but I have a whole empty shelf right there. So starting at the top, I put all of my liquids up there, both fertilizers and like pest control or iron, all up there. Coming down here, this is the shelf that's kind of at the best height for me to grab. So the things I grab most often are here. And on the left is what I grab during the garden season. So my most used tools, my gloves, and on the right is what I use for my houseplants, which apparently isn't a lot. I have my pitcher, some leaf shine, my moisture meter. These are sticky traps, which are great if you have fungus gnats, which I have some of my plants right now. And then these are circular trellises that I don't have to use right away, but I might use at some point. So that's going to stay in there. I have random garden stuff down here, hanging baskets I put out during the season. Pot feet. So if you have pots sitting on a wooden deck, I highly recommend lifting them off, especially if it's either material that retains moisture and could damage the deck or just to improve drainage. Pot feet. Some vermiculite I'm going to use for seed starting, and then some bungee cords I use to cover some stuff last winter. I didn't use it this winter, so I'll keep those there for the next year and see if I need them or not. All of my granular products here. This is the lighting that I use for my garden. It's just basically, what's it called, like bistro lights, and then the outdoor plug. There's also a remote that goes with it, and then timers. Those are for inside though. I have saucers, both ceramic and plastic, old nursery pots that I use to upsize my houseplants. And then down here is what I use the least, or maybe only use like once or twice throughout the season. All of my drip irrigation. I have some pots or some grow bags that I need to replace, and then a potting mat that I use fairly often, but I like having it down there because it gets dirty easily. So that's my closet. It feels so much better looking in here. I also wiped off the shelves because it was dirty. So that's my closet organized now. I'm really excited. I love using January to get organized for the garden season. So those are all the products I have. I still think there's some in my closet that I don't need that often. So what I'd be most interested in knowing is how many fertilizers specifically you have for your garden, especially if you have a smaller garden. Do you have just one or two that you use for everything? Do you have a fertilizer that's made specifically for each type of plant? I would love to know, because if I can downsize and make things easier, that's always my preference. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.